Sissi, before we begin, yesterday I was curious and I asked you, your name is so unique. Maybe you can share a little bit more about your name. Did you know that her name actually comes from a very famous princess in the 18th century? Tell us more.
So basically, my grandpa studied European history. So he named me after Sissi, who's the Empress of Austria. Yeah. And she's apparently very beautiful and smart, and she stopped the war among the countries, basically, in that era.
Wow, amazing. She literally stopped wars.
Yeah.
So there we have our very own Sissi here. One more time, let's give her a big round of applause. Sissi, I'm so honored to be doing this with you, and thank you for having me here. Okay, so let's begin. Let's talk about your book. What inspired you to write the book?
How Not to Lose the $1 Billion You Didn't Know You Had, right? Actually, I wrote my first book, Wealth Management Isn't Just for the Rich, in 2017. So I did my book launch in Los Angeles. So while I was flying back to Singapore, I was thinking, what's next? So I usually plan ahead, right? So then I thought, okay, now I should study about legacy planning, which is very close to my heart. So then I came back and do all the certifications. The past 7 years was very important to my career because I help a lot of families to solve their problems. And those, I realized, is very similar to the problems that I had with my family in the past. And I thought, oh, that's very useful, and I really wanted to put it into words. So it took me 7 years to do this. It's like I've been pregnant for 7 years and finally the baby's out.
Wow, 7 years, amazing. So just now, right, I heard you say that, you like to plan. I'm just curious, were you always into planning? At what age did you start to realize that, planning is so important? I'm just curious.
In the past, when I was young, I was planning for my, secondary school, JC, university, right? All those things. But usually I plan ahead. Like, after I start working, I will plan for my, what's next, what's the book, or what's my next investment, or, now I've been planning for my legacy. Right. So why do you think you're here? Why do you think I'm doing those books and a launch here is more like you are witnessing my legacy.
Wow, amazing. I think you're the perfect person to do this, right? Planning for others too. All right. So can you share a story where good or poor planning made a difference?
I think there are a lot of maybe examples of poor planning. People, usually think that they have been planning. For example, I have this client, right? So he has 3 kids. He has a huge business empire, right? And he has board of directors and all that. And then he told me, I did some legacy planning. When I'm gone, my board of directors will take over the job. And then, my kids would be the next owners of the business. And I say, are you sure? Because do your kids know the board of directors already? And he said, not really. They don't care about my business. So I say, then how do you know that whether they can get a loan or not? Because board of directors, eventually they are employees. They can leave, right? When they don't like the owner. Now they're aligned with the vision and they stay here, they know everything. But later on, if they don't know the owner, they cannot get a loan, they will leave. So what is that planning? And then he's done, right? Because later on, it will be a gap, right? So if the board of directors cannot get along with the new owners. So that's when I step in to create a structure when the kids are just beneficiaries. They don't have to be the owners, right? The board of directors, they're employees, they can continue with the operation as long as they are okay or happy with the owners that don't interfere with their daily operations. So that could be something that people never thought of. Right, but I would want to stress that I really was impressed by a family who did really well for their legacy planning, because they actually they came out with like proper documentations about their whole family constitutions. That means like how you actually manage, for example, your money, your business, all the principles. How do you manage media policies, right? How do you manage the securities? How do you manage the family conflicts, right? conflict resolutions, everything. They actually have documentations, they have video archives, and the patriarch actually organized all those like family retreats, which is not just for you to have a vacation. Rather, they actually bring the experts to come in and teach the kids, about their principles of wealth management, principles of business. How do you network? Even like how do you actually resolve a conflict among the family members? Because usually people fight for their own interests, right? So, but how do you align their interests to family interests and solve the problems?
Wow. Yeah. Wow, raise your hands if you're learning a lot here, right? Now you think of all the movies and the dramas that you watch, and you've got all the answers. Thank you so much. Now, what personal values or experience shaped your passion for inheritance and legacy planning?
Sometimes you start with some kind of pain, right? When you realize there's a problem. Because I grew up in an environment that we had a lot of family politics, right? Every time when there's someone dying in my family, then you will start to fight for inheritance. So I'm quite used to that. I'm seeing real sides of human nature. And that really made me feel that I need to solve this problem. And that's why I came into wealth management in the first place. And then I realized, actually, I planned for my inheritance. I planned for my parents' inheritance. So when my grandparents passed away. Actually, my grandma just passed away like 2 months ago. There was no conflict, right?
Wow.
That was for the first time in my life, there's no disputes, right? I wouldn't say that I changed the family dynamics. I think it's the same. It's just that the structures I put into place, provided clarity so that they cannot dispute.
Wow, amazing. I don't know, I feel like we're so privileged right here to learn from her. I mean, that's amazing. So what are the common hidden risks, all right, that families face that silently drain the wealth across generations?
I think just now, actually, a few panelists already talked about it. The most common one is the estate duties that people neglect. I will just give example, right? So that you have a clearer idea. So a lot of people, they chase returns, they think about what is the good investment, but usually when you look at the investment returns, you also need to see that what's the implication of the taxes. For example, right, if you invest in US stocks and ETF, right, for foreigners who invest in those, anything above 60,000, you'll be taxed at 40%. And a lot of people don't really know, right? That's the estate duty. Now, if you invest in properties overseas, that will also be tax associated, like inheritance tax in a lot of countries, like 40%. Even in places like Japan, all that is even higher, right? So those, and also like another thing, the cost is one thing, and also whether as a owner you are able to chase the tenants out if they don't pay the rent, right? Some countries they don't have protections for the owners, right? So you basically cannot do anything if people don't pay the rent. So that will cause a lot of problems for the beneficiaries of people who are inheriting those assets, because number one, you have to pay tax. And I give you my personal example, right? When I inherited a property, for example, overseas, I haven't inherited this, right? But I have to pay the tax of the property first before I receive it. And imagine if I don't have enough cash to pay the tax, I cannot sell it also. That created a huge problem. And that's why I say, like, why don't you give me insurance? I need cash. I had to sell. So that personal experience actually made me sell one property in order to pay for the tax so that I can receive the property.
Wow, amazing. So you really serve others through your experience as well, right? Beyond all the training. That's fantastic. So why are values as important as financial assets in legacy planning?
I want to clarify one thing, right? A lot of people, when they think about legacy, right, they think about death, right? But actually, legacy is how you live your life with intention. You need to know exactly how you want to live, and you just make sure that your values, your love and impact just continues, like even after you're gone, right? That's the most important thing about legacy planning, actually. So why value is so important other than money is because you need the combination. Because like money without value is like a ship without compass, right? It's like you have the means, you have the money to go anywhere you want, but you have no direction. So basically, you're lost. That's why a lot of people, if they just inherit a huge amount of money, then they squander it, or they have usually they will succumb to temptations, because when you are rich, a lot of people will come after you. They will give you opportunities, right? And then after a while, the money is gone. So they don't have the wisdom to manage the money. Actually, money comes with responsibilities. So a lot of people actually, they don't know how to manage them. Now, if you only have values but you don't have money, it's like you have the compass but no ship. So you don't have the means to actually go to where you want to be. So that's why I feel like principles, right? You talk about like, I want to be generous, or I want to be kind, I want to have the integrity. But if you don't have enough money, actually the sad truth is you can't even uphold your principles. Think about like, even like stealing, right? Everybody knows stealing is wrong, right? Everybody knows that. But how come in certain countries that so many people like steal for living? Because they can't survive. That's the simple truth. They can't even survive. And you talk about like values, like no, right? So that's why I think we need to combine that. We don't just give people money, but we need to educate them how to manage this and what comes with this, stewardship, right? The responsibilities that come with stewardship. I think that's more important.
Wow, that's amazing. Yesterday when we had a chat, you said something very powerful that I'll never forget. Wealth plus value equals power. Can we all say that together? Wealth plus equals
power.
Yeah,
I just remember that equation for life.
yeah. I thought that was so powerful, and thank you for that. Right. So, if readers can take away just one key lesson from your book, what would it be?
That's the equation.
Okay, let's say it together one more time. Come on, make sure that we know this, and tonight is ringing in your head. 1, 2, 3, go. Wealth plus.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
See?
Really?
Very good students.
And really, I think it is really embodying, and you can really feel that. I love how you talk about values and how money without the values, you just a lost ship. And that is so powerful. Thank you so much. So right now, how are blockchain, AI, the digital assets changing the way families should think about legacy planning? I know that we've covered a little bit just now. Please tell us from your perspective.
They had very good perspectives, and I actually wrote it in my book. I think it's inevitable that we need to go into a direction that we embrace all technologies and all that. I think one thing that I would highlight is that when we have all kind of assets, we really need to document them down. Right? Because if you, for example, you have crypto and all that, then you lose the key, you lose everything. So no matter what, you have to let people know. And that happened to my life as well, right? Because I didn't know, like we actually don't know a lot of times, like, my relatives, what kind of properties or things that they think they own, but we don't have the legal documents, right? So who knows, right? The person who actually on surface or on like holding in trust for them actually died, and then it's part of their legacy, part of their estate already. So we really need to document them down. And if you have digital assets, then put all the information, necessary information somewhere, right? So that some people, they don't like the beneficiaries to know about it now, but at least they need to let the executor know like where to find them later on. That's very important. So you have to provide clarity. That's the key.
Wow, thank you so much. And legacy planning, right? The truth is that it can sometimes feel like a sensitive or taboo topic, especially in the Asian cultures. So how do you encourage families to start this conversation?
So like I said, reason why people don't like to talk about legacy is because it's linked to death. So, but if you think about how you want to live your life with intention, how you really emphasize how you want to, like what kind of values you have, how do you want to raise your children, I think that's more important. And that actually, because if you build a legacy, it takes time. It takes like forever, and you need to let your next generations know what are your values, how do you manage your money, how do you manage your business, all those things you need to start and doing it. So when you talk about your values and all that, what you are passionate about and how you want them to continue your legacy later on, even after you're gone. Basically, you create this structure that makes sure that people can still live the life that you want, to continue later on. So then it's not a taboo topic.
Yeah.
It's not about death, right? It's about basically how we live our lives.
Well, that is so beautiful. Again, it goes back to the wealth plus value equals power, right? Leaving a legacy. And I'm just curious, whose parents here? How many parents are here? Raise your hands if this tickles your mind and how you're going to talk to children.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't help it. I'm an educator. It's like, whoa, this is something that we need to educate. I like that. You really need to educate.
And actually, that's the reason why certain wealthy people, their kids are like generations more advanced in terms of thinking and all that than other kids, is because they have been inculcated with the knowledge earlier on.
Amazing. Yeah. All right. So what is your vision for the future of inheritance and wealth transfer, especially here in Singapore and in Asia?
I think we are in a super exciting time right now. Don't you think so? Like,
I think so.
Right now, this our generation, right? We have trillions of dollars being transferred to the next generation. And we are actually in a very good time. But the problem is, are we actually prepared? It's not just the families who are not prepared. It's also the professionals, right? We're not really prepared. And that's why in my book I actually talk about that too, right? So it's like a lot of times we are confined in our own field. Let's say financial planning, let's say, law, legal aspects, or let's say accounting, right? So people work in their own industry, but they don't really collaborate together. I think we need to talk in the same language so that we don't confuse people. I give you one example, right? Recently, a client came to me, and basically she has a very, very, very simple case, which is she got an inheritance, right, of X million dollars, and is supposed to support mission work for churches, right? So to me, it's a very simple idea, right? You set up a trust, and then the church just the beneficiary, right? That's it. And then she said, no, I went to a lawyer and who told me to actually set up a NGO. Then I become the director. I said, do you want to run a business? She said, no. I said, then why don't you just set up a trust? And then she said, oh, he told me, if you set up a trust, you cannot revoke it. I said, the name of the trust is revocable trust. So I don't know whether that's miscommunication. Maybe that's miscommunication that my client didn't understand, right, what they're trying to say. But it's kind of interesting that people get this kind of advice. So I think as an industry as a whole, we need to work together and speak in the same language so that we don't confuse other people and we don't confuse ourselves. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. There's so much learning here. Hey, everyone. Clap your hands if you agree. There's so much that we're learning here. And we're almost coming to the end because I just make sure that we ask all the questions that we've been curious to ask, right? So what's next for you after this book?
Okay, I'm writing the third book.
Wow, planning ahead.
Yeah, I already got the chapter summary and all that. So it's going to be about inner wealth. Right? Because I think, so first book is about wealth creation, how you invest and all that. The second one is legacy planning. And the third one is how do we live a happy life? Like, how do you, stake your ground and, do your things in the midst of all the noises and all that. I want to share that with the world because I think too many people are depressed. The richer they are, the more depressed they are, which I don't understand. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm like so blown away. Let's give it up for Sissi Goh. Let's give a big round of applause.